long as everyone can hear you, I guess.
Yeah. 10 years ago today, I was in Kandahar, Afghanistan, which was the most dangerous city in the world at that time. Kandahar is birthplace of the Taliban, stronghold of the Taliban. Everyone who lives in Kandahar is either known Taliban, working for the Taliban, or somehow connected to them. And our job was called Civil Affairs. We were there to help civilians in the battlefield. I'd actually gotten out of the Army 3 years before, and I didn't think I was going to be called back because I was a drummer. And usually they call you back based on your job. So if you're infantry or you're a medic, it's likely you're going to get called back. But I didn't think they were going to need drummers. So I thought it was a pretty safe bet. I wasn't getting called back. Got out of the Army, I backpacked through Europe. I ended up in San Francisco, lived on a sailboat, went to film school, grew my hair out. My hair was like down to here. And then one day I got a letter from the Army saying that they were calling me back, changing my job, sending me to Afghanistan. And they attached me to a group out of Little Rock, Arkansas. So you can imagine these guys from Little Rock, Arkansas, and this long-haired hippie from California. It was a little bit rough at first. They didn't really want me to be a part of their team. And when we were training, we had 6 months of training. And during that time, I had to really prove myself to them, and I had to earn their respect. And so I trained really hard. Trained so hard that by the end of the training, I was literally running laps around some of them in the physical fitness test. Physical fitness test in the Army, the passing score is 180. To get a perfect score, which is difficult to do, is 300, and my score was a 346. So I really pushed myself to prove to them that I can hang with you guys. But when we got to Afghanistan, I really do think we made a great team. I think that we had a very diverse group of people, and we definitely balanced each other out. So what does this have to do with virtual reality and augmented reality? I think that we are in a time in VR and AR. It's a very exciting time. And we'll talk about this in a little bit, but I think it's a time that we really have to dig in and work. And I think one of the things that I've noticed in the culture in general is that when I first started in 2014 doing VR, it was very open. People loved to share information about how they were doing this or how they were doing that. And, I've got this hack that I'm trying this, and I've got this code that will do this and will do this. And everyone was a very interesting community at that time. And it seems like you guys already have a lot of that community here, which is great. But I think right now, a lot of what I see is people trying to hold on to what they have and trying to keep their secrets. And I think that, we aren't competition. We aren't clients. We're not friends or enemies. We're brothers and sisters. And I think that we really need to stick together. We need to work together to build the future of XR. That's me. I'm Alex Pierce. I'm the director of immersive technology at Swivel. Before Swivel, I was at Jaunt for about 2 years as a full-time director and cinematographer. I worked on a lot of great projects, worked with a lot of great clients like Apple and NFL, MLB, a lot of sports, some entertainment. Worked with a bunch of celebrities, so I got to work with Michelle Obama and will.i.am and let's see, a lot of sports people, J.J. Watts, etc. It was a good place to cut my teeth, learn about 360 video, a lot about 360 video. Got into doing immersive experiences. Just got into, started learning Unity, which, God bless you guys, is a rabbit hole of information. But it really opened my mind to what was possible, and I'm really grateful for the time that I have there. At Swivel, I oversee our XR development, and I also have to stay ahead of the technology and know what all hardware is out there, what software is out there. And I also bring on partners to augment our internal teams and push our development further. I don't need to explain these things, but I do want to point out that when I say XR, I'm just talking about the umbrella term anything VR, AR, MR, 360 video. It's just sort of the blanket term to cover all of those. So the title of my talk is Trench of Disillusionment. But before I talk about that, I definitely want to point out, I want to thank Craig and Jeff and all the organizers here at BostonVR. Thank you guys so much for inviting me and for having this community. You guys have been doing it since January 2014? Yeah, that's amazing. That's really awesome.
Thank you for buying the pizza.
Okay, so I'm sure everybody has seen this slide, right? It's the hype cycle, and everyone has their own opinions about where we are in this hype cycle for VR and for AR. And obviously, there's the famous trough of disillusionment. To me, trough is a passive thing. It's saying that like we're stuck in this moment, and that's why I like to call it the trench of disillusionment, because I don't think it's somewhere that we're stuck. It's somewhere that we have to, more than anywhere on here, we have to dig in and we have to fight, and we have to make things that work. Because there is no plateau of productivity if you're not working down here. So that's why I call this talk the trench of disillusionment. You know, to know where we are is really hard to say, and it also depends on the timeline that you're talking about. If you're talking about when the first VR headset was created, then if that's the innovation trigger, like back in the 50s, well then, you know, this whole timeline is one thing. If the innovation trigger is, let's say, Facebook buying Oculus Rift, well, that's a totally different thing. But I think for VR, I think no matter how you look at it, no matter what timeline you're thinking of, I think we're past the peak of inflated expectations. And I think that this time period is really interesting because a lot of the hardest problems have already been solved on the hardware side, on the software side. You don't have to start from scratch. There's a lot of SDKs out there. There are platforms out there to get started. And yet we're also at a time where, you know, we have a few Beat Sabers out there, but we you know, the 5 years, we're going to have an insane amount of content, and we'll see numbers and people adopting VR and AR at crazy, much bigger levels than we see them today. So a lot of the stuff that's going to be made is going to be made by people in this room, the people who are in the VR community and AR community right now. Another interesting thing that's happening is that investors and startups are pivoting to AR very quickly. Google being a great example. Them, you know, they're sort of dropping their daydream and their jump, and they're investing heavily in Magic Leap and doing a lot of stuff in AR. But enterprises, universities, and consumers are coming to AR more so than they were in the past. I think Jeff shared something earlier today about it's like a Penn State. There's like 2 positions at Penn State, and it's like for an XR postdoc and a research position at Penn State. And a lot of universities are starting to adopt VR technology, and consumers as well. The big note for me here is I've been doing this since like 2014 or so, but for the first time, friends of my wife's, they're texting me, calling me, emailing me, saying, "Hey, I want to buy a VR headset for my son. What should I buy?" That I never used to have those conversations. You know, I used to be the one telling people, "Oh, this is awesome. This is so cool." For the first time, like friends are asking me, "What should I buy my son? What should I buy my daughter?" Like she likes this kind of game. Like, what should I do? So those are that's one of the things happening with the industry right now. So talking about enterprise, that's what we focus on mostly. A lot of what we do is VR training. I'm not going to talk too much about enterprise tonight because I think the crowd here in general is developers and stuff. So I'm going to talk a lot about hardware. But I think it's important to point out some of the stuff that's happening in the enterprise space. And a lot of companies are using XR more than you would think. I think it's obvious that you'd think like, oh yeah, I'm sure that company's doing something with VR. I'm sure that company's doing something with AR. But being in the space and talking with potential clients and going to conferences, a lot of times I meet with somebody and I'll expect to have a conversation of like trying to explain to them what VR is, and they're like, oh no, we're doing this and we're doing this and we're doing this and we're doing this, we're doing it all in house, and it's like kind of like that's a surprise to me. I would not have thought that you were already this far ahead. That's not to say that all those companies are. A lot of them have internal teams. A lot of them are trying to do things on their own, and they get to a point where they realize we have to outsource this. We have to hire people who've been developing in VR for years. We're not ever going to be able to catch up to where our competition is if we don't hire out. But it is interesting that more companies are using it than you might think. Let's talk about some use cases. So training and simulation, pretty obvious. I don't think I need to go over that one too much. Remote assistance. You guys are probably familiar with this as well, but this is where a technician can have an iPad or HoloLens or something. They can be working on an engine, and somebody else in another part of the world can be seeing what they're seeing and walking them through, like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. They can annotate on the screen. It'll show up in their HoloLens. That's a use case happening right now for sure. Design and visualization, it's kind of an obvious one. A lot of these companies are already making high-end models, so they're using tools to visualize that, putting on VR headset and being able to be in the same space as the car, see it at scale. It informs decisions a lot faster than making a physical model of that and then going and looking at it. A lot of companies are experimenting with volumetric video as the next form of Skype, that sort of thing. Data visualization is another one that is actually, I think, going to be a big deal in the next few years. A lot of people, again, aren't necessarily thinking about. One of our partners, BostonVR, they have a bunch of really interesting demos. One of the demos they have for the Magic Leap is it can tell like for instance cell service. You could walk around this room, it'll gather the cell service from your phone, and then with the Magic Leap you could see those bars, green being good, red being bad, yellow being in the middle. So I could look around this room and see where my cell coverage is the best. And I could see, I could walk up to the bar and interact with it and see like how good was it at this part right here. And you have this spatial data that could be really interesting to the telecom, and that is very interesting for the telecom industry. They're definitely having talks with all the big people, especially as they're trying to figure out 5G and like, oh, is there going to be a dead cell here? Is there going to be a dead cell there? So that's another big one. Sales and marketing, again, kind of an obvious one. Social media as well. So we have one of a use case that I'd like to talk about here is a driving simulation that we did for United Airlines. We built a full-on driving simulation, Oculus Rift with you can see the headset. You can drive around, use things. And so it's a very realistic training. It's a lot more realistic than reading something or watching a video. And VR training in general, you remember things. You guys all know this. Like you remember things if you do it much better than if you watch it, if you listen to it, or you see it. And so they're using it to prevent accidents. And with enterprise companies, it's a lot easier to show return on investment for training. So in the entertainment industry, it's very difficult to prove return on investment up front. It says, well, you might get a lot of eyeballs, or well, people might be looking at this. But if this training prevents one accident, it's probably going to prevent more than one accident. Let's say it only prevents one accident. Well, that just saved them $1 million, And then you think about, oh, they had to cancel a flight because there was an accident. And then, they lose the trust of their customer, and they lose, there's probably a social media outpour about like, what happened. So, all right. So is 360 video dead? Being somewhat attached to that industry still, I see a lot of people like, oh, it's 360 video, it's dead, it's gone. Let's look at some of the losers. John being one of those. A lot of these companies had all their eggs in the 360 video basket. And here's some of the winners. On the camera side, Insta360 is done. It's funny because Insta360 has done the only thing that you should do if you're a camera manufacturer. They did the normal thing that any normal product has done that no other 360 camera manufacturer has figured out, which is, they made a product and it was very exciting and it sucked. And then people said, hey, this sucks. We don't like this. We don't like this. We don't like this. So then they made a part 2 of that product, and they improve those things. Almost every other 360 manufacturer, they would make a product, that'd be exciting, and it sucked. People would say, hey, this sucks, and that sucks. And they go, oh, okay, let's reinvent the wheel and make another product. And then it would be exciting, and it would suck. People would say, hey, we don't like this, and we don't like that. And they would do it again, and then they would run out of money, and then they would wonder what happened. And it's just kind of like, I mean, you know, the iPhone 1 was exciting and it sucked, but they kept iterating and made it better and better and better and better. And that's how a normal product cycle goes. So Insta360 is winning there, and that's why. They've also got it in the Apple Store. So you can go on the Apple Store, you can go into an Apple Store and just buy it. I was talking to somebody earlier. You had one in your pocket, right? Yeah. So, I mean, they've done a great job of catering to the consumer level and the professional level. 360 video is definitely not dead. The novelty has worn off. 2014, if you knew how to capture and stitch and edit 360 video, you could make a living just because no one else could do it. Today, that's not the case because you can pick up a camera and do it with no knowledge at all. It's the high quality, again, with the return on investment. In the entertainment industry, it's a little different, but with training and marketing, there are a lot of plus sides. So, use case that for 360 video is slide deployment training. I think I did a video here. Yeah, so I'll just play this as I talk. But to deploy a slide for an airplane, it costs them about $100,000 to put that slide back in, or to redeploy that slide. So, obviously, if you wanted to bring in all the flight attendants and train, let them see what a slide deployment looks like, that would be pretty expensive, especially if you had to do it over and over and over again every time you got a new flight attendant. So we filmed this from a bunch of different angles, with a bunch of different cameras, including traditional cameras. This is just a short part portion of it, so that they could see. They could just send VR headsets to their hubs and show the flight attendants what it looks like. Hopefully, they'll never have to see a slide inflate, but if they do, they'll understand it. It happens in 2.17 seconds. It's like that. It's out the door. And if it accidentally deploys in the cabin, it can literally bend the plane. It's that amount of force. So there's still a lot of great uses for 360 video, again, especially in the training on the training side. So let's get into virtual reality. Virtual reality is pretty well established in our minds, in the consumer's minds. When you Google virtual reality, it's every single one of them. All the images that pop up, they're all VR headset. Some of them are kind of silly, like these are VR headsets with no cameras on the outside, but somehow they're seeing an augmented reality world.
That's technically AR, not VR.
So I'm kind of like, I'm not really sure what's going on there, but they're all VR headsets, and that's in general what people think of VR headsets. We keep that in mind when we talk about AR. So let's talk about some of the VR headsets. Oculus Quest, obviously very, very exciting. It's really the first consumer VR headset, in my opinion. I'll talk about it a little bit. The Vive Focus, we have a developer version of that. And it's kind of, in my opinion, it sort of is, in every aspect, not as good as the Quest. More expensive, the tracking's not as good, the quality's not as good. And they're sort of going after the enterprise market, but now that Oculus has an enterprise offering, I'm not really sure that they're going to succeed there either. They already have a lot of these out in the field, so they are doing some things with it. But the Vive Pro Eye, how many of you guys have tried the Vive Pro Eye? A few people. It's very cool. It's very, very cool. One of the things the Vive Pro Eye, as the name would suggest, it's doing eye tracking, and it allows for a lot of things. So one of the best cases is for foveated rendering. So I'll talk about foveated rendering a little bit, but you can also do things like select objects just using your eye. So instead of having to point and click or use a controller, you can just look at it and select it and move it if you wanted to. And also the analytics that you get out of that are really interesting. They can also take that data and port it over to an avatar. So if you're chatting with somebody on a social VR site, it can be blinking when you're blinking, and it can sort of recognize some of your facial features to smile when you're smiling, that sort of thing. The Valve Index, the main thing to talk about here is that the controller is you can physically let go of the controller, the way it straps to your hand. So you can do things like throw a baseball. So that's really interesting. The reverb, it's got incredible resolution. It's lightweight. It feels really good. I don't know if you guys have got a chance to try it, but it looks really, really good. For me, especially on the enterprise side, this would be sort of my go-to for like 360 videos for sure. So these other like more gaming experiences, again with foveated eye rendering, even though that has a higher resolution, you might actually be able to get a lot more out of the Vive Pro eye. So it kind of depends on what your experience is, but definitely the reverb's great. Pimax 5K and 8K plus. How many people have tried the Pimax? So the organizers. Anyone else? I'd be interested to know your guys' thoughts.
The resolution and the field of view were incredible. I mean, the field of view was like 170 degrees, but when I turned my head, things still worked a little bit. That was the only, and I didn't understand why they couldn't fix that in software.
Yeah.
I think it's like the FOV and your eyes, FOV is sort of a difference. At least I would assume there's like a difference between how your eyes look like with the viewport with the view. It's like my assumption.
Yeah.
Why? Like the discrepancy on the viewport and the actual viewport
Still
is
should be
in your eye.
Yeah. I mean, they're still working on it, so maybe there'll be a solution. We just got one like a few weeks ago.
It's surprisingly light. It looks like
Yeah,
the size of a Volkswagen.
It does.
It's really light.
It does. It is true. It is pretty light. Yeah, the field of view thing, I'm not sold on it. It's kind of like, and also the other thing is the wider the field of view is, you're spreading the resolution out. So even though they'll have like their 8K plus coming out, I think in a few months, you need more resolution just for it to look as good as something with less field of view. And the field of view for me, I found actually distracting, where it's like when you're moving, like you said, it doesn't really feel like your peripheral view. So I'm not really sure about that. But one of the things I love about it is that you have a tool that you can adjust render resolution. So you can scale it up or you can scale it down. If you're on a slower PC, you can just scale down the render resolution. It can do hardware foveated rendering as well if you have 2080. And it works with, you can use it with all the existing Steam library. You can just plug it in, use your Steam library. So we'll see. I'm still not 100% sure about that one, but we'll see. We'll talk about foveated rendering a little bit. So Oculus has fixed foveated rendering, where the white area here is full resolution, the red area is half resolution, quarter resolution, eighth resolution. And the Vive, the way they're doing it with Vive tracking, it's a lot more advanced, but basically exactly wherever your eye is looking is full resolution, and then it's sort of a lot more naturally sort of fades out to be half resolution and then quarter resolution. And Oculus is definitely going that route. They've been talking about it every keynote for the last few years. Oculus has been talking about eye-tracked foveated rendering. But regardless of that, even with this, if you guys tried the Quest, especially I think that, to me, I think the most obvious use of the fixed foveated rendering, where I can really see it, is in Vader Immortal. So if you try Vader Immortal, wherever you're looking, I mean, it looks fantastic. It looks like it's a PC-driven experience. But if you move your head, but you look down, you can actually see sort of the line where it changes. But even knowing about it, it doesn't bother me, because I'm rarely ever looking up or using my eyes to look down, but looking up in my headset. So it's actually, to me, I think this is a totally acceptable solution. It's been something. It's not necessarily a new technology, but it's really come to a head, I think, this year. And obviously, if you guys are developing for it, yeah.
In your opinion, with the Vive Pro Eye,
Yeah.
how old is that implementation work? Like, when your eyes move, is it noticeable lag, is the resolution kicks in?
I've only tried one experience with it, so I don't know how well that translates to in general. But it was, I mean, the experience I did was really cool. It was very, very cool. It wasn't noticeable that it was happening, I didn't notice the lag. But the guy did say, the guy who was doing the demo, it wasn't a Vive booth, it was somebody else's booth. I can't remember what they were. But he did say that, like, one of the problems they're having is with different eyes, different sizes of eyes, some people, eyes don't open all the way, so sometimes the tracking doesn't work as well. I didn't have any problems with it. But we'll see where that's going to go. Uh-oh. Okay. I thought you had something to say. But no, yeah, it worked pretty well. And we'll talk about the Vario headset in a minute. That one, they have a different kind of eye tracking, but theirs as well. Theirs was not really, there wasn't really a lag when I tried it. So actually, let's see where we're going here. This is just a
Quick
video.
question.
Yeah.
So does it give you analytics where your eye position
Yeah.
is also?
Yeah.
Both of them or?
Yeah. Both of them can give you those analytics. You probably have to use third-party software, or you have to take it out, like use some other plugin or something to get that into, you guys want to jump in for a minute? These guys are from iMo. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're from a company called iMotions. We've been around this community for like the last 10 years. But we basically have integrations with BiPro-Eye as well as Vario, which will come out there, in order to take their data sets out of there and record the inside, and then use them for like training purposes. And then we provide the analytics, the heat maps, the areas of interest, the time spent looking at certain things. Apply a little bit of AI in terms of like object recognition in there, so that you can see how much time you spent on objects.
Yeah.
So the human eye sees clearly only in a wedge about 30 degrees. So did you feel like your whole sort of 30-degree, wherever you were looking, you were seeing high resolution?
Yeah, I do. I think that because it's a circle and because it fades out instead of being a line, I think it was really natural. But I also preface this by saying this was like mid AWE, which is like the craziest conference ever, and there's like 100,000 square feet of floor, and I was literally like going demo to demo to demo to demo, and like trying everything out.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be, I'm not the maybe the best person to speak on this tracking, but for me, when I tried it, it was like, oh yeah, this is awesome. This is exactly what I hoped it would be when I heard about it. I look around and and the other thing is that like, in general, you don't have a headset on and move your eyes constantly. You're moving your head, and the eyes follow. And there's a few things you might look down and look here, there for too. So I think that's probably one way that they probably have a way to assume if they don't know where your eyes are, it's not tracking your eyes. It probably defaults to like the middle or wherever, and that probably works for most people. Maybe a lot of people in this room might be a little bit more stringent and be like, oh, that's not working. But in general, I think probably it'd probably be okay. And I was definitely impressed with the eye tracking. It's a little creepy when you can see your eyes. It shows you like a picture of your eyes and it being tracked. And it's kind of like, oh, that's kind of weird. But
Well, that's all it's just strictly tied to just the.
yeah. So this is just a silly example to show like how their avatar is using eye tracking to mimic to the avatars. So Google, they've sort of been getting out of the VR game. They've basically given up on Daydream, which is sad. And they've basically given up on Jump as well. They've shut the doors on that. But I think with Jump, at least, that their goal was probably accomplished. They wanted to get high-quality 3D cameras out there so they could populate YouTube with VR content. And I think they did that. So that's probably all they were trying to do with Jump. I don't think they were ever trying to make money from it. But that shouldn't really be a surprise because according to killedbygoogle.com, there's over 170 services and apps that Google has killed, and climbing, including like Google Jumps here, even Google Hangouts, which I just used yesterday, is dying in October apparently.
Oh no.
So
And YouTube gaming.
Yeah. There's all these things. Like some of these, I thought they were. I mean, and some of them may still continue, but they're not. They're not provided anymore. So
And Google Plus.
it's just a normal day for Google.
Good
Yeah.
riddance. And Google Plus, good riddance.
Yeah, exactly. How many of you guys have, before today, have seen or heard of the Lenovo Mirage Solo? So just a handful, okay? This is mobile 6DoF 2 years ago. We use this for our experiences. We have a forum over there, but the first time I put it on, I just disabled the safety feature, of course, because that's what you do, and I walked around, an airplane. This was like a year and a half ago. I was like able to walk around this airplane experience that we built, and this was a year and a half ago, like long before Quest, and but nobody seems to know about it. Even still, like even here, like you guys, I would actually would have expected a little bit more hands in here. Like I understand that it's a more general audience, but the main reasons are content, marketing, 3DoF controller, and content. And part of the content problem is that they have this crappy 3DoF controller because you can't have these amazing games with with one 3DoF controller. So if we look at some of the top grossing games, Beat Saber, Job Simulator, Super Hot, Arizona, Sunshine, and Onward, none of them are on the Mirage Solo. So there's problem number one. On the Quest, at launch, they had Beat Saber, Job Simulator, Super Hot, and they're working on Arizona Sunshine and Onward. So, the Oculus Quest, I think, like I said, it really is like the first real consumer VR headset. It feels like a finished product. Even when you open it and you're like putting it all together and you're going through the menu, it feels like a finished product.
And I guess this is concerning the fact that this is like Oculus has been around like a VR game for a while, and they seem to be well established with the framework that they've been building up for the past few years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the hardware and the platform is there, and so certainly, I mean, I know all you guys know about Oculus Quest, but I think this is definitely going to be the place to develop. That's definitely where we're going to push all of our training as we can, because deploying this kind of stuff, it's much easier than deploying PCs with tethered experience. It's much easier to do a lot of stuff. And now that Oculus has an enterprise program, you can actually sort of lock these down in like kiosk mode and do mobile device management and that kind of stuff. So I'm very excited about that. How many people have heard of the Vario VR1? Okay, cool. So that's a good number. The Vario is, I got a private demo of it in LA, and it's awesome. It's phenomenal. It really is kind of like looking into the future of VR headsets. So if we look at the angular resolution of other VR headsets, so we'll just point out like the HTC Vive Pro is 15. Vario's display is 60 pixels per degree, so it's 4 times the Vive Pro. And this bionic display, I'll move over here so you guys can see too. This is from their website, so it is what it is. But you can see, like, I mean, this really is the difference, where something in a regular VR headset will look blurry and will look tack sharp in the VR in the Vario VR1. And this bionic display that they're talking about, the way they do this is basically kind of a hardware solution to foveated rendering, where they, instead of having a display for your left eye and a display for your right eye, like most VR headsets, you have 2 displays for your left eye and 2 displays for your right eye. So you have like basically a Vive Pro with 2 tiny screens that are like 21K right in the center of your field of view. And the thing for me, the thing that I noticed the most was far away. If I looked at those buildings out there way in the back, in a regular VR headset, even if it was a high quality game or whatever, it would sort of be blurry and it'd be pixelated. But in that headset, I could see the lamp, in that building across the way. It's just really, really pretty incredible. We'll talk about their XR version here in a little bit. So now augmented reality is a little bit different. So remember we showed what Google thought of when we looked at virtual reality. When you Google augmented reality, Google thinks it's a phone or a tablet, and you're sort of doing stuff with that. I made this silly meme to sort of illustrate a point, but so this is what companies think I do, what I think I do, what consumers think I do, what Bose thinks I do. Have you guys seen this? Bose AR earphones?
Nope.
What brands think I do, and then what I actually do. So, I use this to just sort of illustrate a point that AR is it's almost like a layer. It's not really like, oh, VR experiences are sort of like VR headsets. Get it? AR is like, a lot of times it exists in existing apps or solutions, you know, and just the definition by itself is like, okay, well, this projector is augmented reality because it's augmenting our reality. So it's a lot harder to define. It's a lot harder to explain to consumers. But I think for this, you know, this talk, we'll talk more about AR headsets. According to a survey from AWE, you know, they surveyed a bunch of XR professionals, and they were looking at like what are the best headsets that are out there. You can pick more than one, which is why there's more than 100% here. Just because I was like, wait a minute, 77 plus 67. But you know, one of the interesting things is that Apple is number 3, and they don't even have a headset, right? Everyone thinks that Apple has, you know, this amazing headset. You know, like, oh, they have this incredible headset, and they did not produce anything. And obviously, there's great reasons that people believe that, but it's a very interesting thing to note. I think HoloLens and Magically are both doing some really amazing things. We have Stuart.
Just left.
Okay, so we had I don't have to say anything nice about Magically. No, Stuart from Magically was here earlier tonight, and you know, I think with Magically, they're like Apple. They're very secretive, right? So we have no idea what they're going to come out with next and what they're actually working on. But I think he told me they had like 1,700 employees in Florida, something like that. And they have, you know, all of the money. So whatever they're working on is going to be amazing for sure. And they're really working with enterprise solutions now too. But really what I'm going to talk more about is these other headsets that maybe you guys don't know too much about. We all know about the HoloLens and the Magic Leap. We have a Magic Leap back in the back, so if you want to try it out, we can try it out. So this is kind of a silly slide too, but it's, you know, your phone can do 100 or 1,000 times more content than an AR headset. How many people in this room have an AR headset that they didn't buy for work, but they just have an AR headset because they bought it because they wanted to have it? Okay. Oh. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is there over here? So that's actually surprising for me. What headsets do you guys have?
Oh, I just mobile stuff, so they weren't that.
That's fine.
They were early cardboard style.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Some didn't have names for English.
Okay.
I'd like to take this opportunity to say BostonVR has an equipment library, and we have 2 HoloLenses to lend out to people who want to play with them. And I'll bring my hospital's Magic Leap to the Hack Day on the 10th.
That's awesome. So I also don't have my own personal headset. We have the HoloLens and we have the Magic Leap we bought for work, so we can do the all 4 and all that stuff. So, and this sort of goes back to the enterprise thing as well. With consumers, an AR headset or any device, whatever it is, they have to fulfill more than just one thing. They have to be able to, like, you have to rely on that thing for multiple reasons. Your phone isn't just your phone. It's your navigation, it's your entertainment, it's your this, it's your that. With enterprise, it just needs to serve one thing. You know, if you have it, you can buy a headset just because you need this one training. It doesn't have to serve all these different things. So how many of you guys have smartwatches? A lot more people. A lot of people. We're kind of a tech crowd and a little bit early adopter, so take that for what it is. But I think that you know, a lot of the AR headsets that are going to come out in the near-term future are going to be more like a smartwatch than an AR headset. If you look at some of the main reasons to buy a smartwatch, notifications is one. I know for me, like I remember, this is a funny story. I remember I was on set directing a shoot, and I was actually interviewing Diddy, Sean Combs, and I'm interviewing Diddy, hilarious, but I got a text from the producer telling me, I can't remember what it was now, but it was something specific I needed to ask him. And I was able to, without looking at my phone, without doing anything, be able to see like, oh, I need to make sure I ask him about that. And it was one of those that like, oh shit, that was worth it. Just for that one moment. That notification was super important and I needed that notification. But in general, like I found it to be so useful to be like important, not important. It's it's kind of a no-brainer once you start using it. Home and fitness, again, sort of an obvious reason for smartwatches. Answering calls, not as obvious if you don't have a smartwatch, but if you have one, you probably realize that like, oh, it actually comes in handy. A lot of times if I'm working and just a buddy of mine's calling, I don't have to pick up my phone. I don't have to stop working. I just answer, yeah, what's up, dude? All right, cool. Yeah, got it. All right, bye. It's really actually kind of handy. Extend one better with your phones. Another reason people get it. Navigation is great. When walking is awesome. Walking in Boston and being able to just go, okay, turn right, turn left, turn right. Great. Internet of Things, not going to talk too much about in music. So these are some of the main reasons that I think consumers would be interested in buying AR glasses. I know. You're seeing the pattern. It's all the same. But it's true. I mean, if I could do all these things with my glasses, well, I don't need to watch anymore. If I could go to the gym and not need to, if it can track my fitness, then I don't even watch anymore. And I think there's a whole group of consumers that would buy smart glasses that would do those simple things for the right price, and if they don't look like you're wearing a weird helmet. Plus video. That's obvious. But, video, the story I like to tell because I go, yeah, that would have been really useful then, is the ability to watch videos privately. Because I can't remember if it was season 5 or whatever of Game of Thrones. I downloaded the whole season. I was going to catch up on this plane ride to Europe. And I get there, I sit down, I'm like, okay, I got my headphones in, everything's good to go. And then a 10-year-old girl and her mom sit next to me. I'm like, well, I guess I'm not catching up on Game of Thrones this flight.
Hilarious.
But if I had AR glasses, right, they don't even have to be spatial, right? I could just have my glasses on and watch Game of Thrones. Great. No one has to know that I'm watching Game of Thrones. I don't have to be embarrassed.
I don't watch Game of Thrones.
Let's see. So I think I've muted this one. Yeah. So these are the Vuzix Blade. If you guys heard of this headset, so Vuzix Blade's already doing a lot of this stuff. They don't look like. I mean, I could see some of my buddies from the Army wearing these, but like the people they're going to show in this video, it's like, yeah, she's not really going to wear that thing. Like, come on. But they're very cool, and it's definitely a really big step towards the next version of whatever they're going to be. Like, look, she's not going to wear these. Come on, let's be real. And the other thing I want to point out, I think their video, I think that I started to nag on them, but like their video is kind of silly too because like the whole point is that like you can stay connected while you see your notifications, all that stuff. But she's like, what? She just like totally ignores her friend here. And she's like, oh, I'm gonna watch videos of my dog.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, and at least like with the phone, and this is our future, by the way, but at least with the phone, if somebody's like, they're looking down at their phone, like I know that they're checking something, right? But if they're just kind of like staring off into space, it's like, oh, I'm really important to them, like you really could care less about what I'm doing. You answer calls, take navigation, that kind of stuff. Cool. One of the things they bring up after this series of shots is something I am really excited about. But again, I think this video does a terrible job of showing it. I have 2 daughters, and I'm constantly, even in like some of the most important times in their life, I'm like, looking at them from the phone because I'm taking pictures of them. Or if I have my camera, I'm like looking through a viewfinder, like taking pictures of them. And so it is actually really exciting to me that one day, whether this is 10 years from now or whenever, I'll have glasses that I can just be in the moment and watch whatever those important moments are, and also just be capturing those memories that I could always just go back to and watch later. But in this video, look, it's like totally covering up his youngest daughter. It's like, this is not doing a great job, like showing that that AR glasses can capture this moment, like be in the moment while you capture it. It's like, well, yeah, but you just missed the whole point. Ugh. But anyway, I nag on their video, but they are doing a great job. They're integrating with a lot of people as well. But now the other thing is, what if they could look like normal glasses? There are a lot of companies that are already creating these types of glasses. These are Focals by North, and they look sort of like normal glasses. And they don't do spatial computing, and they're not like the craziest headset, but they do the things that a lot of people would find really helpful. Get notifications, if, oh, it's sunny right now. I don't know why you need to know that, but I don't know. You know what? I take that back because I live in LA, and I forget that it rains in other places. And so last night, I didn't even think about, oh, maybe I should check the weather and see if it's raining. So actually, I could have used these last night before I left. I'm like, oh, it's going to be raining later. Okay, let me go back and check this. But anyway, so yeah, maybe I take that one back. This is another one I saw a Kickstarter on like yesterday. It's probably because Google sees that I'm searching these AR headsets and like, oh, see this Kickstarter. But they look like normal glasses, but they do the same thing, like notifications, answering calls, that sort of thing. In Real Light is another one. At AWE, these guys had a ton of buzz. They had a huge booth. They're doing a lot. This is a lot more than just notifications. They're going to tether to your phone. They'll release in 2020. They'll tether to your phone. They have advanced graphics, so they actually do look really, really good. But I'm a little bit confused on like what they're actually offering. Like I'm not sure what content is going to be on there, so I'm not really sure what they're doing. But they look really cool, so they've got that going.
Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah, that's right. As long as that's right. That's right.
Again, no worries.
So Apple glasses, whatever those are going to look like. Did you guys see this this article recently? So, I mean, first of all, what kind of sentence is this? Apple reportedly having terminated AR glasses development. Like that just screams like, oh, this is a trusted source. I should believe this. But like, yet every media outlet's like, oh, Apple's abandoned AR altogether, and and then started like this whole like, I think pretty funny fight. Yeah, these are some. I just did a quick search on Google. Was it Digitimes? Is the name of the people who put it out? And like 2012, there were like 25 cases of where they were wrong about Apple. This is like, okay, well, that is what it is. But I think it's safe to say that Apple is not terminating its AR hardware. They have invested a ton of money. They have some of the top people in the industry working on it, and all the real information we have on their headsets come from their patents. So it's like, oh, they have these 8K display patents and whatever. And I saw one yesterday too that was like they're tracking your eyes and they filed for a patent that tracks your eyes, your hands, your facial movements. But just because they file a patent doesn't mean they're going to do it, right? This is Magic Gloves from like 2011 that we still haven't seen yet. I'm still waiting for my Magic Glove to show up. But I think that I have no idea. I don't have any inside information. Anybody who claims they have inside information at Apple is lying. But I think that more than likely, whenever they develop their first AR headset, it'll be more like the iPod of whatever it is. A lot of people think,
Sure, the iPhone.
well, yeah, I think a lot of people think that because they have these 8K display patents and they have all these like crazy patents out there that they're going to be trying to compete with the Magic Leaps and the HoloLenses. And I definitely think that is their long-term goal. Their long-term goal is to replace the phone with glasses. I'm no doubt about that. But I think that in the near term, it's going to be more like the iPod model, where the iPod was a necessary step to get to the iPhone. It'll be a standalone device that will do those things that I was just talking about, that look really cool. And that's the thing too, is like I've actually never had an iPhone. One of the only people I know that have never had an iPhone. But I almost switched to the iPhone for the Apple Watch because it's supposed to be really great. I would definitely switch to Apple for Apple glasses if they came out and they were awesome. I'm like, all right, well, here I go. I'll figure out iPhone now. But anyway, the reason I don't think that they're going to replace the phone yet is because 5G and AR cloud is not a real reality in our near-term future. It's going to be a big deal, but it's going to take years for them to get the infrastructure in place and all that. And with 5G, they say it's going to be 10 times faster. Verizon said that they were doing tests and seeing 30 to 50 times faster than 4G, which I really can't even imagine. My phone could do 30 or 40 times faster than 4G. The
like faster than the 10 gig internet speed that usually like a business device would.
Yeah, it's kind of like fiber for your phone. I mean, it really is going to be incredible speeds.
Yeah,
but we are so far away from that actually being a reality, like rolled out and be a thing. So, I don't think that Apple is going to release something to replace the phone until all that infrastructure is there. Again, they may release something similar that's like not really a phone that just sort of does things in the middle and it gets early adopters involved, it gets the product out there, they can start developing it, making it better. But I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. So remember the VR1. So Vario has the XR1. Yeah.
Have you heard people talk about how Apple buys companies that have these things to keep them off of the market?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought about what the early means to the long-term destination of these headsets? Putting these heavy devices on our heads? Augmented reality, virtual reality, direct stimulation of the visual cortex is Star Trek technology. But it's a few years away
Yeah.
in research laboratories.
Yeah.
So where does that figure in? You're extremely thorough over these headsets.
Sorry. Yeah. No, I mean, as far as the implications of putting these, I mean, that's it.
Let's say it's non-surgical. Let's say it's a little scratch.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I can speak to that necessarily. There's.
Fair enough. I'm sure that, if you talk to your friends in the military,
Right.
or so, you'll hear some things about it.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and there are researchers who are like, they're researching the long-term effects of VR and AR and wearing headsets and what does this do? And as far as like, yeah, you're talking about like the Elon Musk. I don't know if you guys saw that, like Elon Musk like working on using your brain as an interface and that kind of thing. I mean, yeah, all that stuff is like, the optimist in me is going like, oh man, the future's gonna be awesome. The pessimist in me is going like, man, when my daughters grow up, like, we're doomed. So yeah, sorry, I'm sorry getting into that, but so Vario, so the same VR headset, they have an attachment that is the cameras. Has anyone tried their XR demo? So I have not tried it. You have?
It uses the biggest thing about it that really makes the headset shine is it uses pass-through.
Yeah.
So it honestly I think it's perfect for introducing people to VR because you put on this headset and you just see the real world. You're just looking at the video and the world around you. And normally with like the Vive or something, that video would be too slow, so walking around in it and kind of like, but they have a hardware solution that makes it render so quickly that it actually doesn't bother you to walk around with that video. And then they're like, all right, now here's an AR car in front of you. So now you have like this AR portion of it. And they're like, all right, now we're going to put you in VR. And like, you see this like walking at you, and suddenly you go from AR to VR just like that. And that's kind of what I always imagined is that was going to happen with VR and AR. It's going to be indistinguishable. I just thought it would be with VR headsets.
Right.
With VR headsets.
Yeah.
And they just take you in and out of VR and AR constantly in the demo. Like there's a part where you can like see your hands pass through the video. There's a physical chair, but they're like, you're in VR, so you can't see anything around you.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, you want to sit down in the car? Hold on, let's go back to the AR mode. You see the physical chair, and you see it yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas like normally in VR, doing the car right now, you have someone awkwardly like showing you where the chair is, making sure you don't hit them. But this, the pass through, you're able to just sit yourself down, and then like boom, you're back in VR, sitting in this car, and you're in the chair. And going in and out of like the real world games, the world is a great way for the medium. And it's also just more immersive and easier to interact with.
Yeah, 100%. That's their Volvo experience, right? Yeah. So I'm actually going to SIGGRAPH specifically to see the XR demo. It's just like I wasn't going to go to SIGGRAPH, even though it's in LA. I was kind of like, I've got all this other stuff going on. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to SIGGRAPH just to see it. But no, everyone who's seen it has been like, one of my friends, Robert Mendez, he's a journalist, VR journalist. He said it's like, it's like the first time you see VR. It's kind of like opens your eyes, like, oh, I see all these possibilities, and I can see where this can go, and I see like what's happening. But it's very, very cool. Again, I don't know if I said this earlier. The Vario VR headset you can buy right now for $7,000. I'm a sales rep, so if you want to come buy one from, no, I'm kidding. I don't think I'm going to be selling any of those, but it's definitely it's really marketed to enterprise companies focused on design. So if you need to see that detail in whatever you're designing, it's a huge difference. It's a huge jump from one headset to the other, from this one to another one.
This is the one they're using for driving on test track.
I don't know about that.
I was thinking that this sounds like the one that
You could be a serial like specific
Yeah. Okay.
They test drive it with VR. So does XR.
Yeah. Okay.
The part is almost
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually do have in there like trailer for the test drive video.
Okay,
I don't
yeah.
actually do that.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it would make sense. I mean, $7,000 is a lot to you and I, but if you're a company, especially if you only need a few of them, if you're a big company, that's not that big of an expense. The other thing is that you have to have like a 2080 or above just to run it. So, and apparently my friend Bernard, who's like the head of technology or whatever he's called, he burned out his 2080 in like a month. So it's probably not for the faint of heart. But it is really sort of a glimpse in the future, and it might be immersive AR. I don't know if that's actually a term or not, but that's so instead of seeing like with a lot of AR headsets, you see like a hologram that's sort of faint and you can kind of see it. But with the XR1, it's physically there. It's not like a 40-degree field of view window. It's like you're in a VR headset. You're standing in your location, and there's a car in front of you. So I think that a lot of the VR cameras that are out there now, VR headsets, they already have potential to use these front-facing cameras and place AR objects in the field. So I do think that we're going to see. Thank you, guys. I think we are definitely going to see a lot of these VR headset manufacturers start to roll out in their SDK and otherwise, like the ability to do AR with the pass-through cameras and create better pass-through cameras and render engines to make them so that we do. I think that Oculus Connect coming up, that they say that there's something with augmented reality that Oculus is going to be doing. I have no idea, but it's probably something along the lines of that, where they're attaching pass-through cameras onto some headset.
Just today, I saw someone who had never used VR before put on the Oculus Quest, was looking at the real world through the cameras, which are like several inches off to one side at a totally different scale. And in less than a minute, she was able to walk around, pick up objects, and navigate. That gives you an idea of how adaptable the visual system is.
Yeah. So I'm really curious to see like what the first like immersive AR headsets will probably be VR headsets with pass-through cameras. So I started this presentation by saying like we're all brothers and sisters, and it's important that we develop this stuff together. But I definitely think I want to meet you guys. I want to connect with you guys on LinkedIn and Facebook and all that. But I definitely think that the other people in this room should definitely get a chance before you leave tonight. Introduce yourself to 4 or 5 people that you don't know. Get their information. See how you can help them build whatever they're building. And and definitely, I mean, you guys are already doing a great job of building a community here, but keep that up. There's my contact information. I'd love to be hanging out for a bit if you guys want to chat. But thank you guys for having me. Thank you, BostonVR and Craig, Jeff, thank you guys.
Awesome. Just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. So afterwards, we typically also go, so we're going to have demos first, but after that, a lot of us are probably going to go to a local bar. We haven't decided exactly where that bar is yet, but I'll announce it before we head out and just kind of follow us there if you're interested on just hanging out and talking more about virtual and augmented reality. So again, for demos, Swivel has lots of different headsets. Magic Leap's here. We have Beat Saber there, and I have Vader Immortal on my Quest if you want to try that out. And so yeah, stick around, have fun, and thanks for coming out. And Jeff, yes.
Oh yeah, Jerry here is live stream the whole talk, and so it'll be available on our YouTube channel later on.
Yep, and send out a link to that. So thank you, Jerry, for setting that up. Awesome. All right, have fun. Thank you everyone for coming out.
You want a t-shirt? Yeah, t-shirts, t-shirts.
Okay, great. See you around. I
would try
want to try that too.